Hi, I'm Emma from the Health Coach Approach business and the host of the Health Coach Approach podcast. Very excited. We have a special guest today, and you may have heard of the My Millennial Money podcast. This is the co-host from that podcast, John Pidgeon, and he is the owner of Solvere Wealth and Property Coaching and Investing. So I couldn't think of anyone else to help us with our financial well-being, with our financial accumulation and our health. Something so important and something that's dismissed, I find, in the wellness scene. We have lots of recommendations for, our physical health, even our mental health now, but the HCA really prides itself on having a holistic approach to wellness and well-being and creating that lifestyle that you love. And this means looking at our financial health, building that financial abundance and having that solid base so we can really feel well in our mind, body and health, because we know the statistics and studies show that financial stress is one of the biggest factors for people. So I'm passionate about helping people and really bringing to light that education that we need so much, and just that conversation around our money management and how we can build it to support ourselves and our family. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. I really enjoyed this chat with John. He is just an incredible person and has so many experiences to share, and he's very passionate about his physical and mental health as well. So I hope you enjoy the episode, and rate, review and subscribe if you enjoy the show. I appreciate your energy and your time. Let me know what you think. Bye for now. John, so excited to have you on here. We're yet to have anyone talking about financial health and wellness. So super excited to have your perspective and share your story with our listeners, because I think it is something we kind of dismiss in, like, when we're looking at health holistically, that financial aspect is so important to our well-being and just to be successful and things like that. So I love all that you do, and with your podcast and just looking into what you do with Solvere, it just looks really awesome just to help people like reach their potential and just live that successful life. So super excited to chat with you today.
No worries. Yeah, pleasure to come on, Emma. And fitness and health is something that I've always been passionate about. So when you reached out, I was more than happy to come on and yeah, hopefully add some value.
Yeah, amazing. Because you're Ironman triathlete.
Yes, yeah. Well, I was a phys ed teacher back in the day, and yeah, I played a lot of AFL down in Victoria. But yeah, in the last 10 years or so, I've been doing some Ironman triathlons, which has been good.
Yeah, very impressive. So let's just start with your background. It's really interesting to hear your background because quite similar to mine. I was a PE teacher, grew up in a small country town, played sports, and then kind of went in this different direction. But so where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up as a country Victoria, a little place called Minyip, which is about 3 hours northwest of Melbourne. And yeah, everything was about sport and farms, so plenty of space to run around with, and plenty of energy, and yeah, football in the winter and cricket in the summer, or tennis, and it was a pretty good lifestyle growing up. We didn't know much different really, but yeah, so that was went away to university, Ballarat, studied teaching, and then went on to be a phys ed teacher in Horsham, actually, not far from where I grew up, for about 3-4 years, and realised that I probably wasn't going to teach for the next 30 years or so. So that's when I actually started a personal training franchise. So I moved to Adelaide to do that, and did that for about 10 years before meeting my wife. And we moved back to where she's from, where we're living now, which is Central Coast of New South Wales. And I suppose all through that journey, my underlying passion over and above health and fitness for me and everyone around me was property. I just bought my first property at 21. I was actually a joint venture with my sister. We put in about $5,000 each back in the day.
Yeah.
And then grew from there. And just by luck, it had some it was the right time in the market, which taught me a few different things, but I fell in love with it from there on in, and have been doing that ever since. And now I've got the privilege to be able to help others do the same thing, but also make sure they've got their foundations in life intact.
Yeah, it seems like a really holistic approach, like looking at their kind of lifestyle. And would you say kind of discussing their long-term goals and short-term goals, just to make sure it's really like a good fit for them and where they're at?
Yeah, absolutely. Like people will come to us and say, look, I've been looking at this particular property, or I've been looking on realestate.com. What do you think of this? I'm like, well, let's back the track up and just make sure our cash flow management is in order. First of all, we know what's coming in and what's going out. But more importantly, what are our goals and what are our long-term outcome for this next property purchase? And whether it be property or shares or running a business or anything else, we need to know where we're going, don't we? If we link it to a marathon, for example, if we don't know the distance is 42K, it's going to be hard to keep that momentum going to get to the finish line.
Is that what you personally experienced? So yeah, you got into it quite early, but did you have anyone guiding you, or was it kind of like you just learn all these lessons on your own?
Yeah, well, showing my age here, but back when I was doing it, there was nothing online. You couldn't just at the click of a button go and find the answer to something. Now it's almost the opposite. There's too much information out there, which puts your head into a spin. But so yeah. I was massive on books and still are. It's a slow approach to learning, but it works for me. And I just tried to go to as many workshops or information sessions or talk to as many people as I could about wealth creation and property and how they run their life, and take everything in and just be a really good listener. And I think it's a skill that is one of the most important things that you need to adapt. If you're going to be very good at something, you've got to be a good listener.
Yeah, that's such a good point. We always, we focus on other things when we're learning or trying to get really good at something, but listening and just taking it in, just quietly, and then applying it is key. Yeah, and asking questions when we're not sure.
Yeah, totally. And two ears, one mouth, like in that proportion is what I was always told, and never think you know everything, and you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, or think that you come across as knowing it all, because you're putting a barrier up straight away for people to not want to give you information. But on the other hand, if you are asking important questions or any questions and showing your vulnerability, people are more inclined to reach out.
Yeah, and then you're always learning more, aren't you? And you're just leveling up each time, and then applying what you've learned. So with what you do, so you do that coaching, kind of giving people what I guess you didn't have, would you say, when you were going through that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was probably 10 years ago where I sat back and thought, you know what, this is so common, like people's dream home. It's the great Aussie dream, like let's buy our own home to live in, or have a roof over our head, and let's pay it off over the next 30 years. And there's so many other options than going down that traditional path, and especially with the growth of property in the last few years, as to we need to be strategic in our thinking. But so many people haven't got their cash flow management right, and I was guilty of that in my 20s. And I'm fortunate enough that the people we work with now really switched on in that space, and it's just being able to nurture them through some little changes that they can make, but then really educating them to the point where they can take action themselves. And that's what I get the most satisfaction from. Like we run a buyer's agent service for people that just can't be bothered and haven't got time, and that's cool. But my real sort of hair on the back of the neck stuff is being able to teach someone and for them to go and get a result.
Yeah, because it is something where both coming from the school system and education background, but you're not really taught this stuff in school. But when you get out, you're expected to make all these big decisions and just to turn out okay. And that stress of money is one of like the biggest stress that people have individually, but on their families and on their relationships. So if we can like help people in that area, it just helps in all other areas. So it's probably such a good feeling to have people be able to feel that sense of control with their finances.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Emma. And we do corporate workshops for businesses, and we go into schools and talk to, I suppose, year 11s, year 12s about the concept of it. And the teachers are learning stuff themselves that, yeah, as you said, probably should be taught in schools. And that's actually one of our mottos for our corporate workshops. But if it was taught, I wasn't listening at that time. But I think that it's just such a crowded curriculum, isn't it? And it's very hard to do everything. And you've got like we've got a 14-year-old that does a lot of digital analytics in our office for us now, which is amazing how he's telling me how to do things and he's 30 years younger than me, right?
Yeah.
But like we was talking to him about just general cash flow management, and this is his first job. And it's now only become relevant to him because he's trading his time for money. He's got some money coming in. So now he's having to ask those important questions. So to teach someone when it's not relevant, they're probably not ready to listen.
Yeah, you're so right. And I was very fortunate. My mum was all about that financial education when we were really young, and she got us the Rich Dad Poor Dad books to read when we were kids, and we even had the board game, which I'm sure we tried to make fun, but at the time I just wasn't interested. But now as an adult, just realizing how much, you really do have to make that decision and take control of your finances, and you can have fun with it, which is why I just love the podcast, which like what you guys do, it's really like casual conversation, but it's really practical, and you just hit a lot of areas there. So how did that kind of come about, or what was the purpose of doing My Millennial Money for people that may not know what we're talking about?
Yeah, so Glenn James, he's the creator for it. I'll give him all the credit. He came to me, well, what was probably 4 years ago now, and said, do you want to do a podcast? And at the time, I suppose running a business, you can make things work. You're flexible with your time, unlike teaching. So
yes.
I said, yeah, let's give this thing a go, and let's talk about money and the ins and outs. And I can come in with a special with property. He come from a financial planning background, so it was quite a good mix. And we're very different people as well, so it brings two different personalities to the table. And we just said, look, we'll give it 12 months and see how it goes. And he did all the editing back then and the back end systems to make sure it was marketed well. And if we didn't see any traction in 12 months, then we were nothing lost other than some time. But we both found that talking about it, we really had a passion for it, and still do today. And I think that's the key with everything, isn't it, Emma? If you're passionate about something and you enjoy something, and it's not a burden, then you're likely to continue to do it. So look, here we are today, and it's still growing. We think it's still only in its infancy, but I think if we were to start it again today, podcasting's come a long way, as you know, in the last 4 years. We'd have a lot more competition and heat, and it would be definitely a lot harder to make some inroads.
Yeah. How do you get your inspiration for the topics? Is it what you kind of see your clients are kind of looking for, or there's like these challenges that people are facing?
Yeah, a lot of it's just off the top of our head. This is what I think is relevant material. A lot of it is from the listeners that say, well, we've got a story about this, or we've got a question about this, and we turn that into an episode. We do reach out to the audience quite a bit. But yeah, generally speaking, it's a mixture of everything. But some of it has to be on the fly because it's relevant at the time. It might be in relation to interest rates or property prices, or just anything that's cutting news that we need to talk about and thrash out. But look, no one's above all of this, and we don't claim to be experts. We just like your health and fitness, you just need to apply consistency and habits to it to get a result over the long term.
Yeah, is that what you'd say kind of if we're talking like basic 101 like financial health and building those foundations? Would you say it's those small things that really matter and we've got to get them done first?
Yeah, 100%. Like it's anything in life is just consistency and just showing up, isn't it? Like
Mm,
just having really good habits, replacing the bad habits with the good ones, and just continually doing it. And you've probably heard of the book, and the listeners have as well, Atomic Habits by
mm,
James Clear, and there's just so many valuable bits of information in there that you can apply if you're struggling in one area of your life. And but yeah, like a lot of people come to us and say, look, we want to buy a property because we need to create some wealth because we don't enjoy what we're doing at work. And that's
mm,
so common. So again, we need to back the truck up and say, well, let's start enjoying work. So that might
mm,
mean changing industries, or it might mean just tweaking to another firm that's got a better culture, or something that's going to stimulate you. So you're not relying on that big ticket item to get you out of financial stress or motivation. And I suppose I liken it to the fad diets with your health. So, well,
mm.
yeah, you can go and lose 10 kilos in 10 weeks or less, but is that sustainable?
It's like, yeah, you don't really want that band-aid approach because, it's just not going to be there for the long term. And it's just that quick fix, which is so much in that health and wellness scene, and it, translates into all other areas. So it's really interesting to see how it just applies. If you're good in that area and you're, really fit, or you've got something that's working, you could just apply those principles to your financial, area and go from there. But what would you say for like the foundations? What's some good things that people should just get in place, like that they could probably start implementing today, or these things that they could start doing now?
Yeah, I think I would go really back to basics and say, what's most important to me in life, and
Mm,
what do I enjoy doing most, and what are my highest values? And with my clients, I work with what's I call the circle of life. And if there's four pizza slices within it, what are those four pizza slices as a highest value? And one might be health, one might be your finances and wealth. The third might be family, and the fourth one, vocation or friends, or whatever that may be. So you look at all those areas and say, well, on a monthly basis, if you rank them all out of 10, 10 being the best, where do they sit? And if
mm,
your health and fitness is at a 9, but your finances are at a 2, there's lack of contentment in your life. So you need to change that, because there's always that knot in your stomach that says, I've never got any money. So we
mm,
need to get that balance across our values that we have in our life. So it's just as simple as what's coming in and what's going out. Like if the 30-second elevator conversation, do you know how much you're earning? Do you know how much tax you're paying? Do you know what's in your bank account? Do you know how much you spend each month? Of that spending, how much of it is discretional spending, which
mm,
is I choose to spend it, but I don't need to spend it to survive, like a
mm,
coffee or another pair of shoes or a night out on the town. And then saying, well, once I know my cost to exist, how much can I carve off for future me? So is that,
mm,
it's got to be minimum 10% to make an impact. But like we've got clients that are saving 80% of their money because they're
mm,
living at home. Now, I don't say go back and live with mum and dad forever, but you've got to have the discipline and the structure to be able to consistently do that. And I think a lot of people put pressure on themselves because they're comparing themselves to someone else of a similar age or their friendship group or what they see online. You've just got
mm.
to forget the noise and the rubbish and concentrate on what you can control.
Yeah, I love that. It's so it's just making it focus on yourself and finding out, which is so important in anything, but what your values are and what's really important to you. And you know, if a certain amount of money is going to make you happy, but maybe a bit less will, and maybe you'll be able to spend more time with your family and all those kind of things. So that taking that time to sit down with yourself and really look at what's important, what's not, maybe where you have that pain and you go, oh, I don't like that, I do want to change in that area, and making those little steps and making sure you can make that happen. But yeah, it's super important, and it can be really hard to look at your finances and look at yourself. Do you find that with people that you work with, it's a bit confronting?
Yeah, and again, relating it back to health and fitness, when we're at the top of our game and we're fit and healthy and we're training every day, we want to continue to do more of it. But if we're lagging behind and we've had a rough summer, we've eaten too much and we're a bit lethargic, and we look in the mirror and we don't see what we want to see, then it's very hard to face it, isn't it? And to get going again. So the biggest piece of advice that I was given when I first started business was do the thing that's the hardest task first thing in the day. And I'm sure listeners have heard of that before, but it's so powerful in the sense that, well, if it's your finances that give you the knot in the stomach, just look it in the eye and meet it, and you'll feel so much better for doing that, because it won't go away. That problem is yours, and you've got to address that, and you can't blame anyone else for it. And the shop made me spend money, or I didn't get paid enough. My boss is the problem. He doesn't pay me enough, no, or she. It's got to start with you, doesn't it? So that's addressing that issue ASAP, and you come out the other side of it just feeling so relieved and motivated to move forward.
Yeah, and it gives you that confidence to then achieve the next goal, because you know you've done that and now it's on to the next one. And there's always going to be stuff we, you know, need to face to keep growing and keep progressing in all of the areas of our life. So it's not like we get somewhere and then we're like, okay, cool, that's it. Even though we can find that contentment whilst like progressing.
Yeah, and to that point, Emma, I think retirement is a bit like that. Like, so many people hang their hat on retirement, and maybe that's from the government saying, well, retirement age is 67. So that's my time where I need to have created enough wealth to be able to stop work. But I see life as a journey, and you should be enjoying each day, each week, each month. And that's not to say you're not going to have any bad days, but don't hang your hat on the 67 retirement or the 50-year-old retirement or the 40-year-old retirement, because it's the journey that gives you the motivation to continue on. And I see a lot of people that retire only to find that they've got nothing to offer. Their health starts to suffer, and they're mentally not stimulated. And so I've got a real hang up around this whole retirement bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it seems maybe it was right back, you know, in the past it was very relevant, but now I don't feel like that's the case, especially for kids coming through and being lifelong learners and staying curious and staying excited. And that, as you said, like, it keeps us mentally stimulated, keeps us engaged in the community. And as we get older, we have more experience and we should be giving back at that time. And if, you know, you can set your finances up well so you're not struggling then, but rather you can just give back how you want to in whatever ways you want to. I think that's that's probably for me, my goal.
Yeah, and that's an awesome goal. And I also challenge people to start giving now as well. Like, when we go on this money journey, it's all about us and trying to create our own wealth. But if it's all lopsided and we're not thinking about anyone else on that journey, again, we're not, I don't think, fully balanced in that approach. So it's all about the lifestyle choices, I believe. So if you're giving to people, it's going to come back 10 times over, whether that's your time or your money. But having lifestyle choices more so than just saying, well, I want to stop work because I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, that I mental blank on what I think it's in your podcast, but isn't it how much you like save, spend, and share? Is that the last one?
Yeah, well, you can apportion it off to
Mm,
whatever level you want, but I think the concept of giving is
yeah.
really important in life, and you save some, you spend some, you enjoy some,
Mm,
and you give some. But I think people need to understand the difference between discretionary spending and non-discretionary. So non-discretionary being, well, I need it to survive. So I need to put petrol in the car to get to work. I need to pay the insurances for if something goes wrong. I need to pay the rent. I need to put food on the table. The discretionary being, well, it's at my discretion whether I need it or not. And that might be a chunk amount that we allocate ourselves each week or each pay slip, so that we don't go overboard and run ourselves into everything we're spending and not saving anything, but we're still going into credit card debt or bad credit that just sets us back 5, 10, sometimes longer years in our life.
and if you can kind of learn that, it's a habit, isn't it? You can learn it and then, apply it. If you're younger, it'd be great to apply it, but you can apply it at any age, obviously, and then just get clearer and clearer on that. And then it becomes easier. And we get, I think it's that thing when we pull back a bit, we feel more grateful rather than just spending money here and there and just kind of wasting it. It doesn't feel as good when we're actually saving it and really looking after it and really caring for it, because we're more in control of it, and it does bring us that more fulfillment because we're spending it on the things that are really meaningful to us, and we find out what's meaningful and what's important. Because obviously in these times, and especially in Australia, we're so fortunate just to have everything and more at our fingertips, and just not being in that wasteful kind of cultural mindset.
Yeah, look, 100%. I think just being born in Australia means we're in probably the top 5% of the wealth anyway around the world. So being grateful for that opportunity, number one, but understanding where you come from and what your money story is, I think is really important. And I find that the types of people that get really good at this stuff, one of two people, one that is running away from what they experienced growing up, as in they had no money, mum and dad didn't have a lot of it, they worked till they're 70 or died, etc. So they're running away from that, and they don't want that for themselves or their own kids. And then the second one is the person that grew up in a family that understood money well, treated it well. Money was their friend, not their foe. And they were taught the key principles to be able to do something with it from day one. And then there's everyone else in between that sort of fiddles their way through with finding out on their own. And I've got 3 kids, 13, 11 and 9 nearly. And our 13-year-old, we're just giving him a bit of a rein to say, well, you go and find out for yourself the concept of money. And if we give them $20, like, I'm not going to tell you what you should save and what you should spend. Just go and spend it and see what happens. And they learn by experience. And I think hopefully he'll swing back around and say, well, Dad, all that $20 is gone. What do I do now? And there's a concept in that for themselves, because a lot of kids don't like getting told what to do. But the power is in the experiencing themselves.
Yeah. What did you have to rewrite your money story?
Absolutely. Not so much rewrite, but what I had to do was spend some time understanding how to use it properly, because it wasn't spoken about at the dinner table when I was growing up, and we didn't have a lot of it. And I had parents that, growing up on the farm, worked 6-7 days a week, and so time that there wasn't a lot of, and money in some years there wasn't a lot of. So this whole time and money, which one's more important? Well, ideally you want both, don't you? A lot who have got a lot of time don't have a lot of money, and those who've got a lot of money haven't got a lot of time because they're working all the time trying to create it. So again, coming back to that balance of time v money. But yeah, I definitely was running away from what I didn't have growing up. And as a parent, and a lot of your listeners may be fretting at the thought of being a parent, but I think you also understand what you want to give your kids. And for me, that's not things, it's experiences and values and beliefs and encouragement, and giving them those sort of things more so than what the previous generation might have had.
Yeah, I think it's super important, like just coming from that teaching background, but saying, like as an adult, like we make mistakes and we learn from them. So it's not about not making mistakes, like figuring out yourself, as you said, with your son, having that $20. Oh, you spent it, didn't feel good. That's okay. What should you do now? Or what would be a better decision for the future? And having that personal learning experience and being in control of our own decisions, and then asking for help, and like such as, with your coaching that you do, pulling people that are experts in and bringing those resources in, that people that have already done it, and they can teach us what they know. There's always someone out there that can help us. But that personal learning experience, that gives us a lot of ammo to change if we didn't like the lesson that we learned.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So true. But it comes back to am I listening? Am I prepared to take that information in? And if I'm not, I'm going to learn by experiences, and those experiences mightn't be good ones.
Yeah, and won't learn from them. So we just stay in this cycle.
Correct.
Same as with our health as well. People, they stay in that cycle, might do a fad diet or whatever it is, and they're back to square one again. And rather than looking at the root issue of why you're there again, just try another quick fix or something else to slap it on that, just to cover it up for a little bit. But then we're back there. So as hard as it is, but it's the challenge and becoming better and learning from our experiences, and then hopefully we can pass them on to our kids, or to someone else, even just a friend, or if that's in a business.
And again, this conversation fits really well with me because of that fitness and health and finance coming together and being so familiar to each other. But like I think, well, what's been physically healthy is not looking good in the mirror and not being the skinniest person in the mirror, is similar to someone driving a brand new car, right? On the outside, yes, they look good, looks fantastic, but on the inside, what's actually happening? The bank balance with the fast car, well, there's no assets and just a car that looks good. Maybe similar to that skinny body, for example, and it's a bit of it's an interesting, controversial topic, but I'm going there. It's like, well,
just as an example,
am I eating healthy? Am I getting my 6 to 8 hours a week? Am I not stressed? Like that all makes up that well-rounded, healthy person, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it is really coming into that, like, how does it feel inside? Like, it's not about the external. Well, it is, because what's inside does translate to outside as well. But does it feel good inside? And is that our values? As you say, going back to before, like what's important to you, and aligning your actions with what's important, even if it's, 10 or 20 or 30 years down the road. Like, what does that look like, and how can I get there? What are the steps that I need to do to get there and make sure that happens, but make sure it's really what I want, or we're just never going to be, we're never going to be happy. And that's what I think we want to feel, whether it's with our finances. We want to be happy with our financial state. We want to be happy with our fitness and where we're at.
Yeah. And I bring it back to 4 financial pillars that I think are key concepts that people can take on board for future wealth, and know that we're playing the long game. It's not a quick fix in the next 5 years. And the first one is pay down your own home. So obviously we've got to save the money to buy one in the first place at some stage in our life, whether you rent vest first or go and buy your own home first. But you want to pay down.
What's rent vest? Can you just?
Sorry, rent vesting is renting and investing in property elsewhere.
Okay, cool. Yep.
So I don't know where our listeners are around the country here, but take like Bondi, for example, in Sydney. You can't just go and buy your first property in Bondi, but you might rent a 1-bedroom shack in Bondi, for example. So you've got the lifestyle of living where you want to live, but going in investing in a 400 or 500K property somewhere else that's looking after itself from a cash flow perspective. So you've got a bit of a balance there.
Yeah.
So, or better still, free vesting, which is living at home and saving maximum amounts of money and investing elsewhere. But you probably can't do that for too long, because mum or dad might get a bit antsy about that.
Yeah, mum, don't worry. I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm 38 and I still haven't left home. But yeah, so that pillar of paying down our bad debt first, which is our owner-occupier home, is important, and it's the great Aussie dream, but it's not going to create real wealth. We need to include it with increasing our cash, because that allows us to sleep at night. It gives us buffers. It gets us out of emergencies. And it's just a feel-good thing to be increasing the bank balance each year. The third one is to increase your assets, whether that be super, shares, property, business, whatever. And then the fourth one is decrease your tax, because that's undoubtedly the highest, if not the second highest, expense that goes out of our life. We just never see it because it's paid before we get the final balance in our account.
I love that. So clearly spaced out and very, you've got your security, but you're looking after your future. And what would your definition be of wealth? Like, I know there's a lot of different definitions, but how would you define it?
Yeah, well, you can be wealthy in a number of areas in life, can't you, Emma? Like you've got mental wealth and you've got physical wealth, and I suppose my specialty is what we do for a living is financial wealth. But everyone's financial wealth is very different based on, again, their values and beliefs and what's important to them in life. But it's as simple as being able to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want. And you might hang your hat on that and say, well, what would I do if I had unlimited time? If I had flexibility in my life, what would I do? What would I do more of that I'm not doing enough of now? Who would I be around, like family and friends and everything else? So I think if you've got to start somewhere and understand what it is for you, and not maybe copy someone else's transcript.
Yeah, I like that, making it your own kind of definition, as there seems to, conversation keeps coming back to, like, what's your values and what do you really want to create and what's going to make you happy in the long term. So good. So I feel like we've covered, like, a few real basics, like the fundamentals, and just getting those small habits really, really clear and really set. And then is there anything else you'd want to add, just for people that are really like, okay, I really want to take on, it's 2022, I'm actually going to focus on my financial health. Like, anything else you'd want to add?
Look, it's about taking action, isn't it? I think you can be the smartest person in the library and absolutely do nothing with what you've got in your artillery. But like, there's so many variables, but if you're sitting there saying, well, I'm drowning in debt, your goal for 22 is get yourself out of debt and just weekly action steps in response to that. Just, it's got to be good habits and cut the cord of something that's not working for you in life. So stop doing something that's no good for you and start doing something that is. So that's the bad debt stuff. If you're there saving money for your first home, then continue to do that and set a target for how much that can be. And if it's $1,000 a month, can we make it $2,000 a month and cut off on a few things that don't really make us happy? They might for an hour or two, but not for the long term. And if you may be sitting there saying, well, I've got my own home, I've had some good growth in the last couple of years, I've got some equity in my property, but I'm scared to use it. Well, the last 12 months is probably on average 15 to 20% of property growth. So that you're missing out on opportunity if you're sitting still. So yeah, I think the biggest, it's just taking action, just doing something like you would profess with your with health and fitness. You just got to get out there and put the runners out the night before and set the alarm.
Yeah, I do actually love on that point. It's not always about doing something as like taking action, but actually taking away. So with Ayurveda, which is like the science of life, they talk about reducing first. So with health or wellness, maybe cutting down on Coke or cutting down on that second chocolate biscuit and cutting down things first, and then we can layer the good habits on top. So same translation for looking after your money. What can we cut down on first and then go from there? So love it. I love how it translates so easily into that health space. It's so good. And on that note, so for you personally, what makes you your healthiest self? Not the big loaded question, but as simple as you can, what makes you your healthiest self?
Oh, that is a good question. I think for me, it's getting enough sleep, and you've got to know your own body, don't you? But 6 to 7 hours is the sweet spot for me. I think making sure that I'm exercising. If I'm not doing that, and obviously doing Ironmans, you've got to exercise, otherwise race day will be a train wreck. But I think that balance is so important, and that's why I have that circle of life for people. Is like if you're a 10 out of 10 in your finances, but you're a smoker and you're stressed out and you're not sleeping, it's that you're not at the top of your game. So I find I'm at my top of my game when I've got a good balance of spending time with family, business, not going too overboard, training well, and basically just enjoying those hours that we've got.
Yeah, so important. Just all those basic things, and just the sleep is so important. No matter how busy or stressed you are, that need to be able to have that good quality sleep, and getting the right amount of sleep, and those connecting with others and just enjoying. I think we forget about that, having that enjoyment. As you said, like life is a journey. We're going to make mistakes, failures are going to happen in all these different things, but just enjoying the journey along the way and just those little moments day to day. So good. So if people wanted to reach out to you or learn more about you and what you offer, where can they find you?
Yeah, so our coaching is solverewealth.com.au, and we run a buyer's agent service, which is envisageproperty.com.au. So yeah, they're probably the best ways to go. We do run clarity calls for someone that's got roadblocks that they can't overcome, which are usually an hour in length, and we can set those up for people. But yeah, they're probably the two ways to go about it.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and just reminding us that financial success is just so important to our overall health and well-being, and it's exciting to get into it and face your fears and go, set those goals and achieve those goals and create more of that wealth so you can do more of the things you love. So really inspirational and just practical as well, which I really love. So thanks so much for your time.
No worries, Emma. I hope that was of benefit. I hope it was of beneficial value to the listeners, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much.